Um, okay, I'm going to start. Yeah, I am as. Wait. My gender pronouns is he or him, and for the POI, you can just unmute yourself. And I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. And go. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, we think that as the opposition side of the House, before I'm moving on to several, what do we want as the opposition side of the House, I'm going to give several rebuttals towards the government team. We think when they mention that they want to have equal promotion, we as the oppositions are forced to argue on the glorifications of this of maritime and coastal tourism, right? So we think even if that we are forced to do so, we think that it is going to be better under our side, but we think that we think that at this point that the government team has playing safe, ladies and gentlemen, because of they actually argue on the problem that is going to happen under our side. Yes, the overpopulated might not include it, but we think that when they mention about harming the maritime and coastal environment, for example, that it is going to likely to happen under their side of the House anyway. Why? Because of most, even if that they mention about sense of belonging is not going to be there on our side, on a most on overpopulated society, for example, we think that the idea of local visitors is also not going to have sense of belonging. Why? Because of, for example, even Kuta, for example, Kuta Mandalika, we think that a lot of trash are actually there. Why? Even if that the only visitors are local in the status quo in the COVID-19, for example, we think that the sense of belonging is not going to be there under their side, and they have no explanation why that it is going to be the idea of sense of belonging is going to be happen under their side. Second of all, when they mention about sailor and tour guide that cannot survive because of they are uneducated, we think that in the status quo, a lot of training are given to them. For example, like Saudara Satu Negara and other form of training, not only from the government, but also from NGOs, ladies and gentlemen. We think that it's already enough in the status quo. When they already blame that the government has give less attention to this area, we think that the government has already give attention. For example, like giving budget or money, for example. We think that, for example, let's say that, let's assume that the government have less money, for example, for this area, but we think it is going to be worse under their side. I'm going to explain how that under opposition we are going to have more budget to have a better preservance for this area, and we think that we are going to have better job opportunity for those sailor and tour guide at the end of the day. Moving on to our cases, in opposition side of the House, we believe that in the status quo, tourism is approaching the sea world, right? The proximity of the sea and even going underwater. We think that the problem, we think that we agree on to the government when we acknowledge the problem about wasting human do littering. But yes, it does exist. But we think that the status quo is progressing. Let's see the proof. The first, society is being progressive and more aware of the ocean world. For example, no straw movement, Save Turtle campaign, for example. And the next one is the idea of regulation. We think that no littering, you are not allowed to littering, and a lot of trash are being provided. And another mechanism is not only that, ladies and gentlemen. For example, that there are certain areas that are not allowing you to bring food to several areas, for example. And also that even in order to limit the number of trash that might be thrown, ladies and gentlemen. And also we think that the idea of punishment is going to be there in form of fines, for example. We think that is already enough in order to cater the problem. Second of all, we think that we are going to have better attention. It's going to be put in our side of the House because of we are going to have more preservation program for this ocean world. We see a lot of benefit come in even economical side. That's why we think that our stance is clear as the opposition. We want to support the coastal and maritime tourism in order to have better supply and attention to the ocean world. Several arguments. First one, why it is important. We think that yes, in the status quo, we agree to the government. We have problems regarding the environment and tourism field, both tourism field. We say it is going to be worse on their side. Why? Where they are going to have less attention to the sea and oceaning world. Why? Local tourism will still likely going to visit beach and ocean, right? We think that littering is going to be inevitable since the local tourism that if we assume that the worst scenario from government will be applied, we think that there is no attention will be coming from them, ladies and gentlemen. And also illegal fishermen, for example, doing pukat and bombing to the coral, for example, is going to be there. We think that that's how they are going to have less attention for the oceanic world. We think that second layer, in their worst scenario, there is no attention will be given to the related area, for example, because people will less likely talk about the condition of that area. That's why we think, second of all, they are going to have less budgeting to the related area. That's why, because they are going to have less preserve funds. Why it is better in our side? We are going to have better attention because first, people will likely talk and have discussion about the area because of it is famous, how beautiful it is, how the condition and the volunteering program has already proven that people already have sense of belonging to it, right? Because of a lot of educated people are going to know this area, are going to be exposed to more educated people, right? So that's how we think that sense of belonging are going to be there at the end of the day. Second of all, we think that we are going to have more budgeting for preserve funds program. This is going to be better in our side because of let's assume that the government give you less money, for example. We think that another way for us to get the money is that from the visitors itself, ladies and gentlemen. Let's say, for example, the idea of this visitors is going to give us a better income, better income for us to have better budgeting for this to preserve this area. Even if we should be kind enough to assume that in status quo that those are totally damaging, for example, we think a lot of campaign and activism regarding the oceanic world has been done. Even massive movement and promotion has been done in airport, cities, village in order to preserve the oceanic world. We think the question that need to be answered under the opposition, instead of arguing the status quo is not progressing, we challenge the government to explain why even under the status quo with progress happening, why the maritime coastal is going to be very harmed, ladies and gentlemen. And lastly, we think what we are going to lose under this side if we are not going to have this happening. We think that we are going to have less budgeting and less attention. Let's talk about problem that they throw. For example, that in maritime and coastal being harmed because of visitors. We think that the idea of regulation has been there. For example, let's say that what is needed to we think that it is better to stay on the status quo because of even if the regulation is not perfect. We think that the thing that need to be done is that doing improvements on the regulation and not on limiting the promotion of this. We think because of we need the glorification of this, ladies and gentlemen, in order to have better attention to it and have a better approaching to it, ladies and gentlemen. That's how we think that we are going to rise the attention of people and awareness of people. Proudly
Well, thank you for the leader oppositions. To continue the government case, I would like to invite Deputy Prime Minister. That is sure he.
Hello, am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Me as the second speaker of the opposition team, of the government team, I would like to say proudly to support our motion today that this House will agree the rise of coastal and maritime tourism. Well, before I'm going to the many substantive arguments that I will deliver, I will go into the many questions that I will I'll take from the opposition team side of house. The first is they say that the government already giving money for them area, but I want to ask you that how you can even guarantee that the money is to guarantee and keep the welfare of the society itself, whereas the first speaker of the government team of of our team, we already told you that the welfare of the society will diminish because of the tourism and the coastal, maritime tourism and the coastal itself. And also, what for what that money to use, like they cannot even explain us, like they just say that the government giving the money for the coastal and maritime tourism, that the government giving the money for that area to develop their area. But how they can even guarantee that their money can keep not only to keep the maritime tourism itself, but also to keep the welfare, to keep the not to keep to stand the gap of the society itself. And also they said that the opposition won't giving the benefit to economic side. Yes, we understand, but the opposition need to prove why glorifying marine or coastal tourism will go hand in hand, because it will be so hard to control, right? Our first speaker of the government side of the house already told you that the characterizing of the tourism itself, they do not want to care about how the coastal and the maritime tourism condition. They just wanted to be holiday, just wanted to refresh their mind. So they don't care about the tourism itself. They just want to what important for us is just
Your eye.
oh, thank you. They were just to keep their happiness and so forth, so on. And also they say that what is the practical, and I always tell you that I always ask you that what is the practical analysis that opposition want to do by to giving more attention for the coastal and maritime tourism. You just want to say that it is giving any economic benefit for the society itself, economic benefit for the tourism itself, economic benefit for the country. But how is the mechanism that the maritime and coastal can give the economic benefit while it is still keep the safety for the coastal and maritime tourism itself. And also I would like to ask you that the campaign to save the coastal and maritime, how is the campaign to save the coast, no, the to save the coastal and maritime tourism, and how is effective? Yes, we know there is so many campaigns that in this airport, as we can easily to find the campaign to save the coastal and maritime tourism. But in the end of the day, the fact is still show us that coastal and maritime tourism, the damage from them is still big, ladies and gentlemen. Come to my arguments. Why the rise of coastal and maritime tourism will be harmful for the environmental and economic sustainability. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we as the government team realize and aware that the society needs to refresh their mind by doing the coastal and maritime tourism. But what we characterize is the foreign tourism, which we do not think that they have a big awareness about maritime and coastal conditions. They only go there to holiday. How is this giving the worst impact for the environmental sustainability and economic sustainability? First of all, as we know that to remake, rebuild the coral reefs taking so long time, right? When the tourists with lack of awareness of the maritime tourism itself, they will diminish them because they do not care anyway. Second of all, if these coral reefs were broken, even though the coral reefs as the home of the fish will less of place to protect themselves from the predator. They will difficultly put their eggs and difficultly to breed, ladies and gentlemen. So for the impact, their amount will reduce because the fish were dead and cannot breed. Thirdly, what will happen? The society that
Question.
no, thank you. That live around the that live around the sea, coastal and maritime tourism will lack of income because they cannot catching fish anymore. They will unemploy. Economic welfare of the society will also reduce. As we know that the inland society, they are respect their culture to be fisher, right? So it is so hard for them. If we want to giving any alternative jobs such as being tour guide, for example, because they are not have any basic on English, for example. You know, like their nenek moyang culture is to be fisher, so they are trying to protect them. Also, they are not well educated, so the government just cannot easily to change their job. The government cannot easily to take the job that only they can do. At least the government do not really care about it, right? The government still not giving any alternative or incentive.
Question.
Even the government do not, thank you. even the government do, the society still cannot receive it easily. For example, the Badui tribe that they do not want to change their culture, even the government try. They will this society will not will left out by the global competitions because the tourism itself and tour guide do not always from that country, right? Because that society don't want it to be tour guide. They don't have any basics to be on English, so they cannot live. They can live without fishing, ladies and gentlemen. So at the end of the day, when the coastal were damaged, and this is hard to change their culture. They have no income. The society, so the society's welfare were damaged. So the sustainable economy will exactly so damaged for the long term. Next, how the coastal MRTism is so useful for the scientists and to doing research that will be useful for the developing of knowledge. As we know that there is so many scientific that doing their research in the maritime tourism and the coastal. So if we damage them by just open the rise of coastal and maritime tourism, to open it to want to giving or take the economic beneficial, we just cannot damage the developing of the knowledge of the maritime itself, ladies and gentlemen. So it will be so harmful for the developing of the knowledge because yeah, we damage the maritime and the scientific object for the example. So that's why me as the government team side of the house proudly to propose this motion. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the deputy leader, deputy prime minister. So now let's invite deputy leader opposition. I'm sure here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible and clear.
Okay. Maybe I preference just unmute yourself. So I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2. Bunyi gak? Bentar Kak, maaf, technical issues. Sorry, I will repeat my speech. So I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Ladies and gentlemen, notice that the only idea coming from government side of the house is that they are panderings on the ideas that all of these activities like coastal tourism and maritime tourism will give huge damage for our environment, and we don't want it at the very first place. But actually, they are failed to clearly analyze step by step on how, for example, all of these activities are going to directly hamper the ecological things in the sea, in the coastal area itself, and how by living this trend it will be better for the society and also for the environment itself, ladies and gentlemen. Moreover, I'm going to review in my speech how it will be better under our side of the house, ladies and gentlemen. The side of the house also mentions about how the tourists are very evil. They are ignorant, only think about their own benefit and so on. But I'm going to prove you that, but they forget that not all of the tourists are evil, right? I think that they are also a lot of them are progressive enough to understand that the environment side is also important. But let's say that the worst scenario is that we have still those type of tourism who are ignorant, for example. But I think that our method in the status quo is enough, ladies and gentlemen. That I'm going to explain later on. They also talking about by this trend, it encourages the government to build the infrastructure and also it will damage the environment. I think that is a poor idea because no matter this trend exists or not, government are going to still create or building the infrastructure to boost the nation's development and so on, ladies and gentlemen. But notice how our government also progressive enough in the current trend, ladies and gentlemen. How they also support the development of eco-friendly buildings in the tourism area. For example, when they are combined the concept of luxury within the nature itself. You can see in the Senggigi, for example, there are a lot of bungalows. They are mixed with the luxury and also the nature itself. The biggest idea coming from government is that they believe that the most vulnerable actor in this debate is the local society itself, which is got a lot of harm because of the existence of these trends. They characterize that they are uneducated, so they can afford for job opportunity and so on, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why the trend, we regret the trend. But I'm going to say that how local society is also progressive enough, ladies and gentlemen, talking about how they are able to speak English better because they are having more exposure, their experience directly living with the tourists within the area itself, ladies and gentlemen. They also forget to mention how the government cooperate with the local community, which is we call as Pogdawis, for example, a local community which is aware of our environment, that they understand that this tourism activity is supported by the environmental preservations, because that's the biggest or significant attentions from the international community, and also the society, the local society itself. They forget to mention how, for example, all of this local community, the Pogdawis itself, are operate the transportation to transport you from Lombok to Gili, for example, to Gili Trawangan and so on, ladies and gentlemen. How they manage the security itself, ladies and gentlemen. How they work in the travel agencies, for example. How they work in the cafe and the restaurant itself, ladies and in the hotel and so on, ladies and gentlemen. All of this idea all of these things are unable to touch by the government side of the house, ladies and gentlemen. Moreover, I think that the idea of hampering, damaging the environment is still under the side of the house, ladies and gentlemen. Because of what? Because losing this trends means that we are going to losing a lot of job vacancies, job opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. That's the moment that the only income for this sailor and so on is only to exploring the oceans badly, because they want to have a maximum profit, ladies and gentlemen. Because if we say that they want to get another job, I mean, they will be not really familiar with another circumstance. This is exactly this tourism and activities is the one that things that very familiar for them, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, move to my argument. Two things, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to talk how these economic contributions give us benefit to boost our nation's development and also preservation, ladies and gentlemen. We think that the current status quo with the economic booster coming from this trend is enough, ladies and gentlemen. It gives much contributions. Millions of people visit developing countries because of the tourism itself, like Indonesia, for example. Why? The main reason is that because Indonesia is very well known because of the beauty of the beaches, ladies and gentlemen. That's how, for example, Wakatobi, Bali, Lombok, and other islands in Indonesia are seen as the best place to visit by the international community because of this reason, because of the beauty of its nature itself, ladies and gentlemen. That's triggered the international community to come, ladies and gentlemen. By all of this money from foreign and local society within, it boosts our economic. It gives us money to build the school, to educate society, gives us benefit to build our infrastructure, and also give us money to develop more our green technology, right? To support our campaign and so on later on. This money is also benefit for all layers of society, especially local society living around of this coastal area, right? Just like what I've mentioned in my rebuttals, right? How the Pogdawis are also involving directly in this trend, ladies and gentlemen. And exactly, this is the biggest loss of government side of the house if we regret this trend at the very first place. They are going to lose a bigger amount of money, which are going to be developed for more green nations and preservation, ladies and gentlemen. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the status quo is enough and progressive according to the preservations, right? We think that the only reason people visit Senggigi, Mawun, for example, and Gili Trawangan in Lombok is because of the beauty of its natures, right? All the scenery, blue water, ocean, blue sea, and clear water, for example, and also the coral reefs, not to mention. That support us. That support the tourism itself. The significant factor to trigger the society to come. Once it lost, no one will interested to come anymore, right? Notice how the tourism still exists in the current status quo. Is that because of the environment are still good, right? Because it's well maintained and preserved by the local society and also the governments, right? We say, note that how they do this. In the current trend, our method is enough and progressive. We have community that control this land in proper manner. How, for example, Pokdarwis are also very aware that this environment sectors are very rigid for the tourism, so that's why they will not lose the job opportunity, and they cater the I'm running out of time. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the deputy leader opposition. So to close the government case, I would like to invite the government brief. Time is word.
Is my audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I will. I'm setting my timer first. Wait. Okay. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the debate have coastal maritime tourism, but we should, whether or not we're talking, we should regret it or not, ladies and gentlemen. It is clear under government side of the house, we said we regret the rise of it. We do not want government to open new coastal maritime tourism area in every beaches they have in that particular country. We are okay with the existence of our current coastal maritime and status quo that already exists. For example, in Gili Trawangan or Lake Beach, we are even more than willing to allocate our money and more funding to even develop more status quo tourism that we have, but we're not going to, open the new one, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's try to engage with the case of the opposition. They want, the bigger whole or the bigger question in the opposition is that how then you can ensure that government will pay fully attention exactly the same to every coastal maritime government have? How can you ensure that you allocate exactly the same money, same implementation of regulations, punishment, allocate money to preserve the ocean you have, allocate money to compensate the local job and give them training, for example? How then you can ensure that you are to control every coastal maritime you have, because we believe that there is no limitation you're going to have, ladies and gentlemen, because a lot of people are going to come that are going to be over promoting, they're going to over people that over people and more people. That is very hard for government to control at the very first begin with, ladies and gentlemen. Under your side, your proposal will not going to fly simply because government have a very big burden for that, ladies and gentlemen, since you can also prove to us how then you're going to do and you're going to control that. We see there is no step-by-step analysis to this kind of argument, ladies and gentlemen. Even if, let's say, that government have money, we said that it is not going to be proportionally or fully allocated to exactly the same every coastal tourism you have, ladies and gentlemen. Because first, government will more likely to allocate money to, preservation or perawatan only to coastal tourism that most contributed, ladies and gentlemen. You allocate money to Gili Trawangan more, but maritime tourism here like Lake Beach that do not really attract many tourism will not get proportional budget, ladies and gentlemen. So the chance of failed coastal tourism that ignored by government, because you cannot ensure every tourist destination is success and attack every tourism, ladies and gentlemen. So there is the chance of ignored and left, coastal tourism is there, ladies and gentlemen. The comparison, you already taken away the job and taken away the life of local people. You sacrifice their life and their continuity. You sacrifice the people and the people that more than willing to take care of the ocean because they love the oceans, because they have the sense of belonging to the ocean in itself, ladies and gentlemen. Moreover, you also make the people, thousands of people become unemployment, because even if you give them training, we're going to show to you why the training itself is not going to be work, ladies and gentlemen. Second big clashes in this debate, the first of all, whether or not we need to open the new coastal tourism, but second clash talking about economic benefit and also preservation of the environment and so on and so forth. Let's talk about the first clash, ladies and gentlemen. Whether or not we should open the new coastal tourism or not, ladies and gentlemen, even if government have the attempt to give the compensation as what opposition trying to say, they're going to open that because of it is very potential, and even if it is going to be unemployment, no POI. create unemployment. They're going to, give them compensation by give them language training or tour guide training, or give them capital to build or run homestay industry, for example. Why then it is not going to work anyway, ladies and gentlemen? We said first, it is less likely to happen, ladies and gentlemen, because government focus on promoting this new coastal maritime tourism. They're going to build, the new infrastructure campaign and introduce it through many platforms, ladies and gentlemen, go through endorsement and so on and so forth. We believe the endorsing itself is going to take a lot of money. For example, you endorsing Siska Call, for example, which is going to take 80 billion or trillion of your national budget. For example, you allocate much funding to attract tourism simply because it is new, simply because you need to, over promoting it, simply because you need to, compensate and pay back for the money that you already allocated, ladies and gentlemen. That's why government will less likely to pay attention to the local people in that particular area. Even if government give them, like language training that you give, why it is still bad, ladies and gentlemen? We already characterize to you on how uneducated they are. It is going to take a very long time to become good or competence as the tour guide, ladies and gentlemen. That's why they will more likely to have the job anyway, because people are going to more likely to choose guide from other area that is more competent tour guide or more competent human resources, ladies and gentlemen. But moreover, they do not want to join the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, because it is already their culture to become the tourism, to become the fisherman, ladies and gentlemen. It said that nenek moyangku seorang pelaut means that their culture is very integrated, deeply rooted in their life, ladies and gentlemen. Their heart are belong to the ocean, their life are belong to the ocean, ladies and gentlemen. That's why it is very hard for them to move to another job, since fishing is the only thing they can do, ladies and gentlemen. They do not have the comparison because they do not have the other skill. Since we know and we admit that, building the skill units take a very long time, ladies and gentlemen. It is not only 1 month or 2 months, ladies and gentlemen. Moreover, the sense of belonging is there, ladies and gentlemen, because you are born with the ocean. When the first time you're born to the earth, you see the ocean because your parents is a fisherman, for example. You're going to have the sense of belonging and love to the ocean in itself, ladies and gentlemen. The impact is that the local people is more likely to, taking care of the ocean, ladies and gentlemen, simply because they realize that to the continuity their life is very rely on the ocean in itself, ladies and gentlemen. Even if government said that there are going to people that use pukat, and for example, but we believe that it is the small number, right? But second of all, they believe that they are afraid for not be able to continue their life once they use pukat too often, for example, ladies and gentlemen. That's why the urgency for them to take care of the ocean is going to be even bigger, ladies and gentlemen. Other than sense of belonging under your side is the fake sense of belonging, ladies and gentlemen. Your sense of belonging happen as long as the tourism give your economic benefit. You love it, but when the coastal tourism sepi, for example, it does not attract tourism, then you're not going to love it, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's talk about how then it is going to affect for environment, ladies and gentlemen. The cruising, boating, yachting, which create bigger emission, polluting air, water, and so on, ladies and gentlemen. It also reduce the animal life and the fishing outside, ladies and gentlemen. Solid waste, littering, plastic, releasing oil, chemical stuff are going to be there, ladies and gentlemen. The long-term effect is that it's going to reduce the beauty of the natural landscape in a long-term period, ladies and gentlemen. Under your side, your coastal tourism is going to be accessed only for 20 for 40 years, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to reduce year by year, ladies and gentlemen. Why then we are okay, even if we sacrifice economic benefit for the sake of environment, because we believe that economic benefit already there by the existence of the coastal tourism and status quo, but we believe that it is better for environment because there are a lot of people that are going to take care for it, for their eternal life. And I beg to propose this motion. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the government B. To close the opposition case, would like to invite opposition B. Time is yours.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Firstly, respond a battle for the government tip. first government team. First, I believe the government team like up the burden of proof. First, they not explain us why the only coastal and maritime tourism if they regret the rise of them. How about the rise of the other tourism such as the forest destination, mountain, waterfall, and waterfall? It is will be okay or not, ladies and gentlemen, even if we only regret the rise of the maritime, but the assistant of the rise of the mountain, waterfall, or forest destination, it's be there also. And the second about the character, and they only talking about the characteristic of the visitor itself. It is there will be huge amount and we can and it is difficult for us to control. But in their side, the visitor control will be hard too. Why I say that? Because they don't have any mechanism how they can guarantee the huge amount of visitor in other destinations such as the museum or the Dufan. It's still be okay. Then we know that it is the possibility for them to such as the broke the museum staff or some museum staff. It will be there also, ladies and gentlemen. So that is why my first speaker has told you that the solution of the huge number of visitors, we can give quota for days how many visitors can visit, so we easily to control in the coastal and maritime tourism itself, ladies and gentlemen. And actually my class is integrate with my rebuttal for the government team. And there are two classes in this debate. First, it is benefit or not for our economic sustainable, and the second, it is benefit or not for our environment itself. Ladies and gentlemen, why we should not regret the rise of coastal and maritime tourism? Because in status quo, we see that the how society progressive enough and to promote the environmental tourism, ladies and gentlemen, such as the existence of the blue tourism itself, ladies and gentlemen. It is the time for us to support the blue tourism itself, because in the mechanism of the blue tourism, it can help to promote the new destination about the environment, such as the coastal and maritime, who left behind or under who left behind and less control from the government, such as the unpopular maritime or coastal tourism itself, such as like what the third speaker from the government team say, that why the attention of the government only for the popular coastal and maritime tourism such as the Gili Trawangan, and unpopular maritime one, it's a lack of government attention. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, we want to rise of coastal and maritime tourism itself, so that all of the coastal and maritime tourism pay attention from the government itself, because it's very important. Why I say that? Because we want to make the equal, they have same treatment, such as conservation of the coal, such as the conservation of coal, and the building develop our infrastructure like the road, and to create the job vacancy for the local people itself, ladies and gentlemen. Because let we compare, if we not raise the coastal and maritime tourism, there is only one popular maritime tourism we want to do conservation, but we forget about the other one, because we think that the coastal and maritime tourism itself, it's not bring us benefit, and it's only make the unpopular one. It's lack of the government control itself, and it is the opportunity of the illegal fishermen, for example, to catch a fish with the bomb itself, and it can broke our coral itself, or our, yes. and 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 second, the class about the the class about the environment sustainability, ladies and economic sustainability, ladies and gentlemen. We believe the economic sustainability will be exist in our side. Why I say that? Because we open the job vacancy for our local people. Our local people. When the government say that it can create an employee and something like that, but I say no. Why I say that? Because we see that how many our local society can progressive enough, why they can be tour guide and they can make a craft and they can sell it, and we give the opportunity for them to sell food or snack, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, so it is the proof that our economy, we open this we open the job vacancy for our local tourism. Then let's compare if there is no the coastal and maritime tourism itself. There is no coastal and maritime tourism itself. There is it can limit the job opportunity for the local people itself, because they only stuck in one side as a fisherman itself. And I believe the fisherman, it's not enough for them, ladies and gentlemen. And they afraid about the existence of the fisherman itself will be nothing and not exist anymore. But I believe the existence of the fisherman, it's still there. Why I say that? Because it is the chance for them to sell or to open the traditional fish market on there, ladies and gentlemen. And we never ban them to catch fish on the ocean itself. So there's why, ladies and gentlemen, I believe the existence of the fishermen, it's still there, and it is the more and I believe it's open the more opportunity for them to sell their fish to the visitor itself, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, because the two class point about the economic and economic sustainability and the environment itself, we can get in the rise of the coastal and maritime tourism itself, ladies and gentlemen, because we want to rise it. We want to rise the coastal and maritime tourism to in our side. So the government pay attention for all of the sector of our tourism. So I'm back to post this motion. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the opposition whip. So let's invite opposition whip. Time is yours.
Okay, give me a second, Kak, to arrange my time and time to the group.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, as the reply speaker, with I'm going to mention and explain several ideas what just happened and thrown in this debate. We think that what the government and opposition wants is to preserve the oceaning world, right? We think, but in this debate we should wisely choose which teams is actually providing best explanation in order to achieve the better preservance at the end of the day. We think that the problem has been argued by the oppositions by the government side of the house, on which that they throw several problems. For example, like society's caring is not there. Second of all, the idea of locals being discriminated, and the idea of pollutions, ecological harms, and also about the idea, the existence of culture, which is going to be very problematic, and also the idea of the government that is very discriminating in the status quo, ladies and gentlemen, regarding the oceanic world, right? So we think that at the end of the day, they are not able to cater their own problems, ladies and gentlemen, because there is no explanation actually coming from them on how that they, at the end of the day, they are going to cater their own problem, ladies and gentlemen. So therefore, however, in opposition side of the house, we already explained to you how the society are already progressive, for example, and on why the idea of discussion likely to happen. That's how we are going to raise the awareness of society more into a wider and a bigger picture, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to have better attention towards this coastal and maritime tourism itself, ladies and gentlemen. That's how we think we are, the opposition side of the house are going to get better preservance towards the ecological world, towards the ecological preservance in the oceanic world, ladies and gentlemen. And also, they are so denial on the idea of economical, for example, how that we are going to have better job opportunity, because in the opposition side of the house, we already explained to you how that we are going to have better job alternative. For example, we are going to have job opportunity because of the government will do cooperations with the Port Darwis, for example. That's how we think we are going to have better job opportunities, for example, like transportation, food and restaurant, security, tour guides, and even open the own markets of those locals to sell their own fish, for example, ladies and gentlemen. That's how we think that we are going to have better alternatives. However, in comparative to their side, they are going to have less visitors. It means that they are going to have less likely to have better job diversities, for example. Even they already argue that this society are stagnant and stick to their culture, that nenek moyangmu is pelaut, for example. We think that they are they are not able to cater their own harms. Why? Because of they never explain how in their side at the end of the day they could change this behavior into a better scenarios, for example. However, in our side, we already provide alternatives. And also, what you need to know in status quo is that these fishermen, for example, are because of they don't have alternatives in the government side of the house, they are likely using bombs, for example, and breaking breaking the nature, like the harming the corals, for example, is likely to happen under their side, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we don't want to happen in the status quo. And also there's also denial even to the government budgets allocation, which we think that it's also going to harm their position. And also we think that how proposed by the government also applied in their own case, ladies and gentlemen. And we think that when they question about the popular versus unpopular discrimination, we think that that's why as opposition team we say it is important to stand on opposition stance to support coastal and maritime tourism, because we don't want that to happen. That's why we are proud to close. Thank you.
Thank you for the opposition reply. So let's invite the government reply. Time is short.
Let me set my timer. Okay, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. In this debate, there are two classes that the both thing need to explain at the very first time. The first, how then we will like to empowering the local people, which is the vulnerable actor. But second, how we are going to be protect the environment. Let's talk about the first class, how we are going to empower the local people. The opposition side of the house, what missing in this class, ladies and gentlemen, they are trying to, like there are so many alternative in status quo. For example, like a training, they are going to be giving a training for like a language and so on and so forth to become a translator. But we are already proved to you why then this kind of people is less likely to be happen, because look at the motivation that they are less likely to be happen because of their age and so on and so forth. But secondly, even if they are motivated, but we already proved to you why then like there are many things that they need to do, for example, like in order to fulfill their basic needs, because of their time is really important for them. So like in terms of how the motivation, it is going to be hard to join in the training and itself, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to prove to you why then even if at the very least the government trying, the local people are going to be motivated at the very first time, why then it is problematic. We already proved to you then how the distribution of the benefit will going to be not equal at all, ladies and gentlemen, because of this kind of things will going to be really easily to shift with another competent translator, for example, like another island and so on and so forth, or even another ocean, another country that more competent to giving a more the services and so on and so forth, ladies and gentlemen, because to create a competent translator is going to be too long time and so on and so forth. So these kind of things never be proved by the opposite side of the house. Why then, when the moment they are face those kind of problem, why it's okay for those kind of people, local people to begin with? But secondly, talk about how we are going to be how the government trying to protect the environment. First, the opposition side of the house say the status quo is enough. For example, of movement campaigning and also the regulation coming from government is already enough to protect to protect the all the damage that potentially happen at the very first time. We think that this kind of rising of trend, ladies and gentlemen, are going to be and they never engaged by then. Why then did they just assume that every single tourism are progressive, so they have a lot of awareness at the very first time, ladies and gentlemen. But the problem is when the moment they are not aware, for example, because they don't have a sense of belonging, why then is okay at the very first time. Their side of the house will never be explained in their side. Even if in our side of the house, ladies and gentlemen, even if the society is already progressive, it's problematic because of what? Because we think that those kind of progressive society are fake of belonging, because of they just go to there for caring those kind of things just because they are famous place and so on and so forth. When the moment they are less famous, for example, this is a belonging will going to be gone at the first time. So that's why the local people will going to be forgetting by those kind of tourism, progressive tourism and so on, whatever. So that's why. But secondly, talk about the protection that you want going to promote. For example, when the moment you are famous, you are going to be get more budgeting in terms of money. For example, that you are going to be creating job vacancy and so forth. For example, like sell snack, for example, providing transportation, hotels, and so on and so forth. But the problem is this kind of type of job, is gentlemen, is potentially creating a lot of waste. For example, they never prove to you why then this kind of this kind of job will never be creating more waste at the very first time, ladies and gentlemen. At least in government side of the house, it will prove to you when the moment we are already less overpopulated, tourism, we can control this kind of people, ladies and gentlemen. At least it will be well managed in our side, ladies and gentlemen. But secondly, they talk about this fish market that they will want to provide at the very first time. The question is how then you can provide the fish market when the moment the fish is not there, ladies and gentlemen. The fish is empty, ladies and gentlemen, because of the damage of overpopulated. They already proved to you the emission and the carbon are already there, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why those kind of things is already dismissive by the government, by the opposite side of the house, will prove to you in the very worst scenario, ladies and gentlemen. So that's because of until the end of the space, then we will prove that way. So that's why we deserve to win in this semi-final rounds, go to the grand final rounds. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the government sweep. So this is the end of our debate today. So the decisions and announcement will be announced in main room. Yeah. So all of the observer and also debater, you may leave this breakout room. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Kak. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Sama-sama. Jagat, you may look this room. PDS. Jagat leave room.
Ya udah